Welcome to Empowerment with Elysia. I'm your host, Elysia, and today I have the wonderful pleasure of getting to hang out with my dear friend, Eleni Argy, who is located currently in Sydney, Australia, originally from Boston, having hopped from Boston to Greece, to California, or somewhere in that order with Hawaii in there too, but we'll review that more later because it is an interesting part of her beautiful story. Eleni is a certified experiential equine practitioner. Oh my gosh, there's just so many words in here. Let me tell you what, folks, this woman, her bio is like so extensive. It's kind of amazing. She does Reiki, she's a life coach, she does integrative wellness and integrative somatic healing, trauma healing. There's just so many things here. She is the founder of She's Like the Wind and Equine International, and she's going to tell us a lot more. Eleni and I had the privilege and the fun engagement in September 19th of 2020. So this is one of our rare interviews where we get to circle back almost 2 years later to see what's changed, what's going on in the world. And so, Eleni, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be back 2 years later. We've connected in between, but yeah, thank you so much. It's always an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to chat about, about life and work and, the beautiful connections that we have as humans. And here we are again.
You're very
happy
welcome.
to be here.
I'm so glad. Yeah, and it's just like, and you are finally coming to America. Yeah. You're coming to America to do your trainings with the horses, and you're going to be connecting with another one of our dear friends, Kelly Jones, who we've also interviewed, and she's located now in Colorado instead of Texas. And then you'll also be in Maine and and California. Is it Marianne Beth?
Marianne Evans is co-delivering with me. So excited. Yeah, it's going to be a fun trip and super excited about coming back.
That'll be fantastic. And what trainings are you going to be providing people this go round?
Sure. So the training that I'm offering is called the Equine Interaction Experience Practitioner Training. So EIEP. It's a blend between equine assisted learning and equine assisted mental health. So it's a foundation training that just bridges that gap and, provides a really, really strong foundation for delivering and facilitating equine experiences, whatever that might look like for the facilitator, right? Really bringing in people's strong skills and best skills in their delivery.
That's fantastic. And I mean, education goes really far back in your family too, right? Like your mom used to teach in Greece and she did all sorts of really unique teaching styles. And then you got to pick up some of that, and you've been teaching for a really long time, the horses, and you've created the non-model model.
I know. Well, everyone would ask me, what sort of model are you teaching? What model did you study? What model did you practice? And I wanted to, as much as there are so many amazing models, but for me, the work and the interactions with horses, I don't want to call it work because it's really connections and relationships with horses and the animals in nature. And you cannot script how that experience is going to go. So if I say I've got a model and I'm going to promise you A, B, C, D, I might not be able to deliver that promise because the horses and people might bring something different in the moment. And so for me to deliver this work to the best of my ability, that's going to bring out the best in the humans and the horses, is to allow an organic flow of the experience. And you can't script that, right? I might turn up with a million ideas in my head, and the horses and people and me in the moment bring something different. And it's a co-creation in presence, in relationship, in the moment. And so I sort of jokingly was calling it the non-model model every time I'd get that question of, what model do you practice? But I do want to really emphasize that there are values that underlie everything that I do. And these are values that, I feel very strongly about, trauma-informed sort of practice and trusting relationships and all-inclusiveness, being non-judgmental. We throw these terms around, but for me, these are really, really strong values that I carry with me as a human being in all my interactions, in my work, in the way I teach. And so, you know, the non-model model still has beautiful values that it adheres to. But what I really want to do with the way we deliver this educational piece is to plug into everyone's best skills. You know, what are your beautiful skills? What's your experience? What's your personal story, and how has that molded you into the facilitator that you want to be now, right? And let's use that as your foundation. And so I can't put a model to that, Elysia. I can't put a script to that. Everyone brings their best self, and let's start with that foundation. Then we can teach you all sorts of beautiful stuff from there. You can practice how to be a better facilitator and a better communicator. And you can practice phenomenology and pulling out and noticing things that are occurring in the moment. These are skills that you can practice and that we can teach. But I can't teach you how to be the most amazing you. You're going to show up with that. But what I can do is build you up and motivate you and point out the beauty in you that you've forgotten, right? So that's kind of the gist of this training. So anyone who wants to do a model, there's beautiful models out there.
Like 100 of them.
If there's a million, but if this non-scripted approach appeals, you know, that really it's a strengths-based approach. It's a beauty-based approach, right? And a trauma-informed and neuroscience-informed approach. All the things that have helped me in my trauma healing. And you know, the healing is kind of that taboo word. Oh, don't say that you're healing, but we are. We're on a healing journey all of our lives, right? And so it's important to bring that in. And so we touch on all sorts of practices that I've gained a lot of wisdom from over the years. And I've also, you know, one of the benefits of the COVID lockdowns, right, was that we had to do everything online. We were in some pretty strict lockdowns here in Sydney for quite a few months, and the better part of, well, the past few years, really. And we had just begun these face-to-face trainings, and I didn't want to say, guess what? No, everything's canceled. The world is canceled. That's not how I function. And so we just put it all on Zoom. And we had the most beautiful connections with the most beautiful people. And what I was able to do was draw from the wisdom and invite in the wisdom of my mentors from around the world, the amazing humans like Carrie Lake and Marianne Evans and Susan Gordon and Judy Brightman and my beautiful trainer. He was the only one who was here face to face because he could be here in the paddock. And some other really incredible humans and specialists in this field who would just zoom in with their wisdom on a live call. And we've kept that part of the approach in what we do. So even on our face-to-face trainings, I will still take a break of an hour here and an hour there to zoom in these specialists from wherever they are in the world. And that's worked really well. And it adds a lot of value. And, you know, people don't want to just listen to me 100% of the time. And that's really, so it's surprising if that might seem, but no, you know, it's been a privilege to be able to use this beautiful forum to connect and to bring in people from around the world that you might not otherwise, you know, be able to connect with. And so, yeah, so lots of great guest presenters. And anyway, that's a long-winded answer to your short question. But yeah, the EIEP. So yeah, I'm excited to come to the States in July. We've got a few trainings here in Sydney and in Melbourne and up in the Gold Coast in Queensland. And then a few in America, in California, Colorado, and Maine this time around. We're trying to get the two coasts somewhere slightly in the middle.
Oh,
And connect with some amazing humans. Yeah.
Yeah, I have personally been to Kelly's new farm
Nice.
recently on my trip across the country in March when I drove across for a month, and it was so great to see her. It's a beautiful piece of property. Kelly
Beautiful.
always does amazing work. I got to stay with her when she was in Austin, like north of Austin in Leander in Texas, before she moved, and that was really cool. She's just, yeah. COVID
Yeah, I'm so
definitely,
excited.
the pandemic did give that opportunity. I mean, I never would have created the channels that I did had the pandemic not happened.
Right.
I have
Right.
been so blessed to get to engage and meet so many people that I never would have met. You know,
Right.
conversations I never would have had, things that I never would have learned or like would have learned much later in life, most likely.
True. True.
So that has definitely been a silver lining moment.
True. True. We've been catapulted into this place of creativity, right?
Yeah.
And
Connection in
and
a different way.
in a different way. Look, innovation is born from, challenges. And it's really amazing to see what you've done in all of these beautiful forums and the conversations you're creating and beautiful connections that you're having face to face and online. It's just amazing to see what you're doing, and it's very inspiring. And it's a way to use, the adversity and the collective trauma that we've gone through and are still going through with the pandemic,
Sure.
in a way that can actually bring us together
Yeah.
in a different way, in a big way.
In a different way, absolutely. I love the new TikTok videos that have been going around where people are like blessing people with cash and like inspirational little notes, and it's nice to see like how people are receiving that.
Mm.
But also just the conversation. I think that oftentimes as coaches, we're kind of like told that we're supposed to always have this face of like, we've got it and we're not actually struggling. Like all the things that we struggled with are in the past and we've overcome them.
Right.
And now we can do this amazing job to serve you.
Right.
But
Yeah.
instead to be reminded that we're still human. And even though we have great tools, like we still run out of bandwidth sometimes. And, like we can become unbalanced, but that doesn't negate our ability to support and facilitate really functional things for people, to get them into a good place. And finding that space, that line between how much do we share as practitioners and how do we share it to provide safe containers for the people that are in front of us to help them
100%.
feel seen and supported. So that's something I've just been trying to talk to people more about.
That's right. That's so beautiful. You've really, touched on such an incredibly valuable point. Is, our power is really in our vulnerability, but sometimes it's not helpful to have this verbal diarrhea of your trauma story, right? And being conscious around how your story might affect others. And I have a beautiful mentor here. I call him the youth guru. As you know, I work a lot with young people and families and kids. And when I was doing more face-to-face sort of youth work out in the community, there's an incredible youth specialist here called Peter Slattery, and his stuff is available online. And there was a point where I was like, Pete, I think I'm ready to share my story. And this is after decades of feeling like this hidden story is bottled up and there was a lot to share. And he said, Eleni, have a think about, is this really about you sharing your story, or is this about the way you use your story? And I said, you know what? It really is about, using it in a way that empowers others. And it means that I don't even really need to share much at all of it, right? And if sharing parts of it benefits someone, well, that's beautiful. But being really cognizant of, what parts of our story are really important and what parts are really private. My story, it's, and everyone's, I mean, it's deeply, deeply personal. So for me to sort of come out with in public, and in the last interview that you and I did, there was a lot of sharing around, what actually happened. For me,
Yeah.
it's 20 years of domestic and family violence, really complex trauma and complex experiences that were really tough to share because it involved my family members who I love deeply.
Right.
And so it was around pulling out the pieces of that that might be useful, that are not self-serving for me to be, exploring the story for myself. It's about sharing parts of it that might be useful for others to hear, that might validate someone else's experience, that might allow someone else to, open the door for themselves to go and access help or support. That's really what it was about for me.
Yeah, Brene Brown talked about how, because somebody asked her once, because she tells her own personal stories a lot, right? And they said, how do you choose what to talk about, right? And Brene Brown talks about how she'll only share with the public what she's already processed with the people who are in the story.
Of course.
So it's like you don't process your story with your audience.
No, not at all. No, that's massive, massive message. And for me, I got permission from my family members to say, is this part of this story, something that's okay with you if I share it? And there are many, 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 things behind the scenes that will never be spoken about in public because it's, as I said, it's personal.
No, I completely understand. I mean, I'm a very open person, but I do have things that I do not share publicly, which might surprise some people because I seem like I talk like all the time about myself and things that some people are like, oh, just listen to. Okay.
A little bit too much information.
Yeah, that was too much for me. Yeah, it's family is interesting.
Yeah, but in saying that, look, I haven't been back to the States in 3 years, and there are many family members I haven't seen in about 7 years. So it's been a very long time. And the last lockdown that we had last year here in Sydney was a 4-month lockdown, very strict lockdown. And look, I went through a lot of grief in that period because I thought I would never be able to come back. Thought I would never be able to go back to Europe to see my parents, never come to the States because, all the travel restrictions. And and I thought, right, my Australian sanctuary has now, become a place that I cannot even get out of.
Yeah.
And there was a huge processing of grief for me. I went to a really dark place with that last lockdown experience. And it was lovely to sit in it. Yeah. And I say it was lovely because I never faced it quite in that way before.
Yeah.
And I had to face all my demons and the darkness and the grief and the loss. And then there was a little spark and a little light at the end of that tunnel that kept me focused, right? And kept me hopeful. And to have come out of that and be able to come back to America now, for me, every time I return back to the States, it's a healing journey because I left the US as an escape from my family trauma. I physically fled, like a wild horse, just as far as that horse can run until they feel safe as a herd. I came here. This was as far as I could possibly go to get away from it.
Yeah, it's pretty far.
And so every time I return, it's really a healing journey for me. And so I'm really looking forward to coming back this time and to be able to share and process even more with the horses. Right? And to be able to share this work. Like when I left, it was the beginning of my horsey kind of connection journey, in the very, very beginning and baby stages of it. But now it's, I've been here for 27 years, so it's a 27-year healing journey that I now have the privilege of, stepping into from a place that's evolved. There's been so much personal evolution. There's been so much that I've learned along the way, and mainly from the horses and beautiful humans that I've come into contact with, through the animals and through being truly present, through being truly vulnerable. And so coming back this time for me is incredibly exciting. It's incredibly personal, but it's a place where I can share my best self, to the people that truly align with my energetic presence, with my authenticity. And it's always a privilege to kind of see who turns up you
Yeah.
know, to see, who's aligned with what you have to say or what you have to share, or your energetic presence that you're kind of, putting out there. And I love it. I love that Kelly kind of reached out to me. Marianne is always a gift. I get to
She's
finally
so
work
sweet.
together with Marianne. These beautiful gals that are hosting us. So we've got Andy Klein in California from Indigo Equine. She's hosting us with her beautiful herd of horses. She's got some Devil's Garden Mustangs as well that we're going to work with.
Nice.
And Kelly, as you said, has gone to this beautiful new property in Colorado. And then we've got a beautiful young gal who was in my EIEP training online in the first year that I delivered it. So maybe not last year, the year before. Her name is Elysia Krutulewski, and she runs a beautiful practice in Maine, an equine, mental health psychotherapy practice. She's a mental health social worker herself.
Nice.
And she takes on these incredible rescue horses, and so we've got a beautiful group in Maine of lovely people who have aligned with this work and with how how I practice the open kind of non-model approach, if you want to call it. So I'm very excited to work with people that I haven't worked with before. So it's going to be really, really lovely. And hopefully I'll be able to connect with you in person.
Hopefully, yeah.
Drag you up the coast.
Yes, that would be amazing. It's a really beautiful drive up to Maine from Virginia. Well, my dear, I think we'll just keep it lovingly short this evening, and touching on and just like it's so much. People should just check you out. They should check you out. Check out the bio in the description below if you have the opportunity to match up with Eleni in any of the work that she's doing. Check out the work she's doing in Australia. Check out her online courses. She also does amazing things in support with like women who have been trafficked, sex trafficked, when like people in the LGBTQ plus community. It's really amazing, all the different work and like you work with like girls experiencing eating disorders. I don't know if you're still doing that, but
it's just an LGBTQ program on today, actually. And yes, I work in modern slavery, human trafficking in my other job a few days a week. I'm on a really special contract there with the Australian Border Force, working with girls who are survivors of forced marriage.
Wow.
And sometimes boys. So this is a really important cause for me. I'm very passionate about prevention of modern slavery, human trafficking, and in particular, these really silent crimes. They're family-based crimes.
Yeah.
They're systemic, embedded in family systems, and I'm really passionate about being involved in these kinds of things. But yeah, thank you. We've got beautiful creative programs coming up. There's a beautiful one that people should check out because we offer this one online, so it's accessible from all parts of the world. It's called the Treasure Box. Ooh. And this is around this integrated somatic well-being tools that I have learned in my 55 years of being alive and surviving complex trauma, and all of my incredible training that I have received around somatic healing. And so I've packaged that up into a beautiful training that we deliver here in the presence of the horses, but it's available. You can zoom into it and practice in your own space. So that's a beautiful one I'd love to invite people to. And look, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's always such a blessing always to be in your presence. You glow from the screen, from the inside out. Always. I love being a witness to your journey from far away, and I hope we can see each other in person in the coming weeks. And thank you so much always for the opportunity to share.
You're very welcome. It means a lot. Where can people find you really quick before we go?
Okay, so our website for She's Like the Wind Equine Experiences is she'slikethewind.com. My email is Eleni, E-L-E-N-I, at she'slikethewind.com. It's SHEEZ, Z, like the wind. We've got a little Instagram page and a Facebook page that has the same name, She's Like the Wind. All of our events and stuff are mostly kind of marketed through Facebook. There's a bigger Facebook group. It's a private group called Equine Experience International.
It's
So
an amazing group. Oh my gosh, people should
all of our
join it.
trainings go through there. I was doing a bunch of Facebook Lives and beautiful conversations with people, which I have not done in a while. All the COVID stuff just shuffled us into a different direction. But there are a few beautiful discussions that people can go back and watch in that group. And feel free to post your own, this goes to everyone, your own events and happenings. And, that group is really all inclusive for people who love animals, in particular horses, but just to help people share all the beautiful work that they're doing around the world. And there's a lot of beautiful humans out there doing some beautiful stuff to support people in our communities who need this the most. There's a lot of vulnerable, people that have a lot of benefit from what we have to share. And so I wanted to create a forum where people can jump in and tell us what they're doing. So yeah.
It really is inclusive. I've shared many things over the last couple of years in that particular group, and it's been wonderful to get to collaborate and connect with people literally all over the world. Speaking of which, if anybody out there is interested in being on my show, man, woman, with horses, without horses, if you just have an epic story to share, wisdom to share, and resources for people, I'd love to have you on. Or if you're interested in doing empowerment coaching with me or men's mindset coaching, please connect with me at www.globalequineaffiliates.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Elysia Bus, and just Google my name, basically all kinds of fun things show up these days. But Eleni, thank you again so much for being here, and I hope to connect with you when we get into the States.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.